You've been sold a dream, and some Mercedes-Benz models turned out to be pure nightmares. Buried behind the iconic badge are cars that drained wallets, shattered reputations, and made even die-hard fans think twice. In this video, we're exposing 15 shocking Benz disasters, models that critics warned about and owners wish they never bought. So stick around, because by the end, you'll know exactly which ones to run from, and you'll save yourself thousands in heartbreak repairs. Number 15, Mercedes-Benz A-Class 1997 W168. Let's kick things off with the car that shook Mercedes, literally. The 1997 A-Class was supposed to be the brand's compact breakthrough, something sleek, efficient, and small enough to open Benz ownership to an entirely new audience. But during the infamous Elk test in Sweden, where cars are swerved to avoid a sudden obstacle, the A-Class tipped over like a folding chair at a barbecue. Cue panic. Mercedes went into damage control, halted sales, reworked the suspension, and added stability control, a massive move back then. Sure, the fixes helped and later models found buyers. The initial embarrassment was enough to scar the badge's reputation in the compact world. Critics acknowledged the fix, but the public never forgot. It created this looming question: can a luxury icon build small cars without watering down the brand? That little stumble stuck for years. Even today, people still reference the Elk test when talking about A-Class history. It was supposed to be the future. Instead, it became a cautionary tale. If you're enjoying this video so far, hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell so you don't miss what's next. Anyways, that flop had wheels wobbling. Now let's jump into a luxury truck that aimed high and landed low. Number 14, Mercedes-Benz X-Class. Now, here's an idea that looked sharp on paper but unraveled in execution. The X-Class was Mercedes-Benz stepping into pickup truck territory, promising rugged style with premium vibes. They plastered the three-pointed star on the front, gave it muscular looks, and rolled it out in markets like Europe, Australia, and Latin America. But there was a catch. Underneath all that Merc styling was a rebadged Nissan Navara. Truck fans picked up on it immediately. The powertrain, the ride quality, the interior materials, it all felt too Nissan and not enough Mercedes. People weren't convinced. Those seeking utility went for actual trucks, while luxury buyers shrugged it off. It lacked identity. Neither tough enough for truck diehards nor plush enough for loyal Benz fans. Sales trickled in, but nowhere near projections. After just a few years, Mercedes pulled the plug and let the X-Class quietly fade away. It barely made a dent in the pickup world, and it's rarely mentioned in Benz showrooms today, one of the brand's most forgettable experiments. Number 13, Mercedes-Benz GLK. Mercedes wanted a piece of the premium compact SUV pie, and the GLK was their early ticket in. Meant to rival the BMW X3 and Audi Q5, it arrived with a squared-off, rugged exterior and the usual Benz badge confidence. But the design? A bit too boxy for urban tastes. Buyers expecting something sleek and elegant were met with sharp angles and a cabin that felt more like a throwback than a step forward. Sure, it had decent handling and respectable features, but in a segment all about style and space, the GLK felt cramped and conservative. Critics gave it a pass, but consumers looked elsewhere. The Audi Q5 and BMW X3 just had more of what people wanted, whether that was design, interior comfort, or that extra edge in tech. Eventually, Mercedes took the hint. The GLK was phased out and replaced by the GLC, which went on to be a massive success. Today, you barely hear anyone mention the GLK. It came, it tried, and it quietly faded away. Number 12, Mercedes-Benz R-Class. Here's a car that probably caused more head scratches than excitement. Mercedes called it a sports tourer, but most people just called it weird. The R-Class was shaped like a minivan, but priced like a high-end SUV. It had loads of space, sure, and the materials inside were pretty solid. But what was it really? A people hauler for wealthy soccer parents? A family car for someone who didn't want an SUV or a wagon? Nobody could really tell. Even critics who usually love innovation were puzzled. They liked the ambition, but struggled to figure out who the R-Class was for. Meanwhile, buyers stayed away in droves. It performed decently in markets like China and the US, where large vehicles tend to do better, but in Europe it was pretty much a ghost. Mercedes kept it around longer than expected, probably hoping it would find its niche, but it never really did. Eventually it was discontinued and barely anyone noticed. A bold swing that barely connected. Number 11, Mercedes-Benz CLC Class. Here's where things started to look like a parts bin project. The CLC class was Mercedes trying to enter the compact coupe game without designing an entirely new model. So what did they do? They grabbed an old C-Class platform, reshaped the body into something kinda sporty, and slapped on a new name. The result? A car that looked decent in pictures but felt outdated on the road. It had aging tech, underwhelming engines, and a drive that lacked excitement. Reviewers gave it lukewarm praise at best, and customers weren't fooled. It didn't feel fresh, and it didn't drive like a coupe should. It struggled to stand out against sharper, better packaged competitors. Even with Mercedes' own lineup, there were better choices. The CLC faded fast, replaced eventually by more focused models like the CLA and the C-Class Coupe. Nobody's talking about it in enthusiast circles. It's one of those cars that feels like a placeholder rather than a serious product, a short-lived chapter that most people forget before it even ended. Now, let's move into the top 10 and see some cars that were supposed to make the brand younger, cooler, and more affordable, and somehow fumbled all of it. Number 10, Mercedes-Benz Maybach 5762. Mercedes really thought it was time to swing for the luxury fences with the resurrection of the Maybach name. And sure, they didn't exactly half-step. The 57 and 62 models were absolute tech-heavy, chauffeur-loving, V12 packing land yachts meant to go head-to-head with the Rolls-Royce Phantom. On paper, they ticked every box. The power? Insane. The features? Top tier. But when it came time to wow the ultra-wealthy crowd, they shrugged. The design lacked flair, it looked like a stretched-out S-Class, and that was a problem. When you're spending that kind of money, people want to feel like it's special. Buyers chose the Phantom over and over while the Maybachs just collected showroom dust. They were fast, quiet, and packed with luxury, but with almost no visual distinction. They had zero street envy. Mercedes quietly stopped the project in 2012. These days, Maybach exists as a trim badge, and ironically that works better, because the extra luxury feels like an upgrade rather than a whole other brand you're being asked to trust. A lesson learned: prestige has to be earned, not just revived with a fancy brochure. Number 9, Mercedes-Benz B-Class Electric Drive. This was Mercedes dipping its toes into the electric game before it was cool. The B-Class Electric Drive should have been a bigger deal. It even had some Tesla tech under the hood, thanks to a partnership that gave it decent acceleration and usable range for the time. But timing is everything. Launched when the world hadn't quite embraced EVs, the B-Class ED ended up stuck in no man's land. It was too expensive for average buyers, too boring for tech heads, and didn't offer enough for EV pioneers looking for a statement. The styling screams suburban errand runner more than futuristic daily driver. Add in a lack of proper charging infrastructure and very little marketing push from Mercedes themselves, and you've got a car destined to vanish. The press gave it a polite nod, but sales figures barely registered. It now lives in forgotten corners of used car websites and the memories of early EV adopters. Still, its bones weren't bad, and it helped Mercedes learn what not to do before they dove into the EQ era. You could say the B-Class ED walked so the EQS could run slowly. Number 8, Smart 4.4 first generation. Smart had a good thing going with the 4.2, so naturally someone decided more doors meant more wins. Enter the 4.4, a joint effort between Mercedes and Mitsubishi that tried to inject practicality into the quirky Smart DNA. The result? A car that kinda did everything, but did it badly. The design didn't inspire confidence, the interior felt chintzy, and the price was too close to better equipped, more respected compact cars. Drivers complained about the harsh ride and underwhelming performance, and even urbanites, Smart's supposed core fan base, weren't buying the pitch. It was marketed as cool and clever, but it drove like a budget hatchback with an identity crisis. Buyers didn't trust it, and critics didn't praise it hard enough to sway opinion. Within a few years, it quietly bowed out of most markets. The second gen popped up later, but the original had already hurt the brand's momentum. It's a textbook case of trying to stretch a niche concept too far. 4 doors didn't make it 4 times better, it just made people 4 times more confused. Number 7, Mercedes-Benz Veneo. The Veneo sounds like a spell from a Harry Potter movie. It definitely didn't bring any magic to Mercedes showrooms. Designed to be a compact MPV with the sophistication of a Benz, what ended up delivering was underwhelming. The Veneo rode like a van, handled like a box of groceries, and looked like someone forgot to finish the design. Built on the A-Class platform, it offered sliding doors and flexible seating, but the quality inside didn't feel like Mercedes at all. Plasticky materials, awkward driving dynamics, and a weird shape turned people off immediately. Critics called it useful, which is another way of saying bang average. The kind of people who needed a compact MPV didn't want to pay Mercedes prices. The kind of people shopping for a Benz didn't want something that looked like a bread van. Sales were dismal, and within a couple of years, it quietly disappeared from the lineup. Few remember it, and even fewer miss it. It was one of those vehicles that made you wonder how it even made it past the concept stage. Number 6, Mercedes-Benz SLK 200. The SLK 200 facelift looked ready for a red carpet. It had the compact roadster vibe, a retractable hardtop, and the Mercedes badge to back it up. When you dug a little deeper, it started falling apart, figuratively. While it had sharp styling and premium appeal on the surface, under the hood it was lacking. The engines didn't thrill, the steering feedback was dull, and the handling just didn't excite like a proper sports car should. Driving purists looked elsewhere, and those wanting everyday comfort found the SLK a bit too cramped and jittery. Ended up stuck in the middle, failing to win over either group. Early sales trickled in thanks to the badge and looks, but repeat buyers disappeared fast. Critics started comparing it unfavorably to the likes of the Porsche Boxster and the BMW Z4, and once that comparison turned sour, the SLK couldn't recover. It became a car that people liked in theory but ignored in showrooms. It had charm, but when the charm wore off, there was little left to fall in love with. Hang on tight because we're about to get into the top 5 where Mercedes really dropped the ball in the luxury game. Number 5, Mercedes-Benz CLS Shooting Brake. This was supposed to be the stylish rebel in the Mercedes lineup. The CLS Shooting Brake looked good, combined the coupish elegance of the CLS with the added practicality of a wagon. You got space, luxury, and flair. On paper, it was the perfect car for the executive who wanted to stand out. But here's the kicker. Nobody showed up to buy it. Wagon lovers found it too expensive and flashy. Coupe fans didn't want a wagon, even one that looked like it came off a fashion runway. It didn't have the sales muscle to justify sticking around, so Mercedes pulled the plug after just one generation. Sure, it earned praise from critics and design fanatics, but in the real world, that praise didn't turn into purchases. In today's resale market, the CLS Shooting Brake is more of a collector's curiosity than a cult classic. Mercedes gambled on design over demand, and the audience didn't bite. Beautiful misfire? Definitely. Memorable? Kind of. Successful? Not in the slightest. Number 4, Mercedes-Benz A-Class Sedan. The A-Class sedan was Mercedes trying to get a foot in the door for American buyers who wanted a taste of the three-pointed star without spending luxury money. Sounds like a good idea, right? Entry-level pricing, slick looks, and the Mercedes badge. It had all the ingredients, but when people actually got behind the wheel, the cracks showed. The ride was rough, especially for a car claiming luxury credentials. The cabin tech didn't age well, especially when rivals were offering slicker systems within a year or two. Driving dynamics? Nothing to write home about. And worst of all, buyers weren't exactly thrilled once they saw the resale values nosedive. It came in quietly and left even more quietly. No farewell tour, no major outcry, just a quiet shuffle off the showroom floor. It tried to do the bare minimum under a luxury badge and learned that people expect a little more when the badge says Mercedes. That was a loud lesson learned. Now, get ready, because next up is the top 3, starting with a flop that was supposed to lead the electric revolution for Mercedes. Number 3, Mercedes-Benz EQC. If you're going to introduce your first all-electric SUV, you better come in swinging. But the EQC limped in. From the jump, it didn't bring the excitement you'd expect from Mercedes' electrification debut. The range? Meh. The styling? Conservative. Performance? Average at best. Buyers took one look and walked straight to a Tesla store or over to Audi for the e-tron. The EQC didn't push any boundaries. It felt like Mercedes was testing the waters instead of diving in, which doesn't really work when your rivals are turning their EVs into showstoppers. On top of that, Mercedes barely put marketing muscle behind it. It just existed for a short time and then got quietly swept away as Mercedes shifted focus to newer EQ models with more range, more flair, and actual hype. The EQC had the name and the heritage backing it, but none of the punch needed to carve out a space in the competitive EV market. If anything, it served as a cautionary tale. Half measures don't cut it when the world's watching your electric debut. Number 2, Mercedes-Benz C-Class Coupe. You'd think a Mercedes coupe would be a recipe for success. The W203 C-Class coupe came into the scene, hoping to give buyers a more affordable slice of Benz flair. It had sporty aspirations, 2 doors, and a badge that still turned heads at the time. But the execution was completely off. Inside, the materials felt downmarket compared to its sedan sibling. The infotainment and switchgear aged rapidly, and early models suffered reliability complaints that only added to the woes. It didn't handle particularly well, and the engines didn't offer much excitement either. Buyers expecting a baby Benz coupe with some punch were left unimpressed. And then it came time to sell. Depreciation hit hard. The car couldn't keep its value or its reputation. It wasn't special enough for enthusiasts and didn't meet expectations for casual luxury buyers. Eventually, Mercedes phased it out, replaced by sleeker and more purpose-built coupe offerings. This car was a placeholder more than a standout. Once it was gone, few missed it. The next entry takes us to the top of the Mercedes misfire mountain. Coming in at number 1, we have the Mercedes-Benz A-Class W177 sedan. Mercedes wanted to turn the A-Class sedan into a gateway car, a model that would hook new buyers and turn them into lifelong fans. That plan did not pan out. The W177 Generation A-Class in Europe carried decent looks, a promising tech package at launch, and the brand's signature badge. But cracks started showing early. The interior quality degraded quickly, and those futuristic infotainment features started feeling dated after just a couple years. The ride comfort didn't deliver either. It was harsh, especially when compared to other compacts in its price range. And for buyers hoping this was a cost-friendly way to step into the Mercedes world, maintenance and ownership costs turned that dream into a headache. Reviews turned sour, and reliability concerns followed. In key markets, Mercedes started pulling the model altogether. It tried to do too much at once. It wanted to be premium, affordable, techy, and aspirational, and ended up being a disappointment in every category. Instead of being a solid entry into the brand, it ended up pushing many buyers away altogether. How did Mercedes survive all these duds? Which of these cars disappointed you the most? Let us know in the comments, and thanks for watching. To enjoy more exciting videos, click play on the video on your screen, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified when a new video drops.